Do me a favor. Could you say senator instead of ma'am?
I love these members that get up and say, read the bill.
What difference at this point does it make?
The whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
We know that the free market is nonsense.
This liberal will be all about socializing, will be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
The time has come for unfiltered, politically incorrect common sense. Welcome to the wild world of Cowboy Logic.
And welcome to the wild and woolly world of Cowboy Logic. Just as the introduction says, this is politically incorrect, unfiltered information that you are not going to get from the mainstream media. Why? Because, at least for the time being, we can still broadcast this information. Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen. Our phone number is 646-929-0432. That's actually a New York exchange number, but obviously, if you have a cell phone, it's not going to cost you anything. 646-929-0432. And you can find us on the web, which is kind of inconsequential because if you're listening to us, you probably are already on the web, but please pass it around to your friends. It's cowboylogic.us. And when you come onto that website, you can click the listen now, and you can hear us right now. And after this show, you'll be able to hear it in its entirety whenever you want in playback mode. We have three phenomenal guests today. A.J. Gaynor is first up, and we'll be hearing from him shortly. He's from the band 12 Stones, and he has a very, very unique perspective, I guess you could say, on the music industry. He's certainly much more conservative, which is an oddity in this business. Hold on, let me just... there you go. Sorry about that, folks. I have a loose connection on this mic, and I have to whack it once in a while to get it to work. It's what happens when you work with bubble gum and shoestrings. Anyhow, A.J. has a very interesting take on life on the road as a musician. Worked as a music director and a DJ for a radio station before he joined the band 12 Stones. We'll be talking to him again in just a moment. At 9:30, Stan Levy, who is a Georgia Tech brainiac, lives out in California right now among all of the brainiacs and lunatics out there. I don't know how he does it, but he has his own blog called Black Man Thinkin'. And we will be hearing him at 9:30 and some of his take on what life is like out on the left coast. And at 10 o'clock, something completely different. John Bergquist will be joining us. He's in Connecticut in the town of Sandy Hook, or Newtown, I should say, not far from the Sandy Hook Elementary School, where that horrible massacre took place. John knew Adam Lanza's mother, Nancy Lanza, and we will be talking to him about what he saw and what he experienced and what he is experiencing still in the wake of that horrible tragedy. So kind of a well-rounded show, a bunch of different things. But we want to give you information that you are not really going to hear from the mainstream media too much. And, Don, you have your 2 cents, as you're more or less going to call it?
Well, I don't know if I'd call it 2 cents. It may not be worth a lot to...
1 cent.
Yeah, maybe 1 cent. I'll give you my 1 cent worth. Actually, what I was thinking about today on my long drive home that I would not be able to do in a battery-operated vehicle or smart car, is that what they call them? What are the battery-operated cars?
Stupid cars, but yes. They go about, 35 miles before they break down?
I would not make it home, no.
You wouldn't make it there or back.
Correct.
It would take you 3 days.
At any rate, what I was thinking about is the fact that we've got a Congress that has a 14% approval rating. 14%. And these people that we've elected, these elitists, these statists, these elected officials that have a 14% approval rating are fundamentally transforming our country. They're fundamentally transforming our Bill of Rights. and they're fundamentally transforming our Constitution. And I don't know about the listeners, but I can tell you that a lot of times I feel quite helpless because you watch the news, they talk down to us, they appear to be exactly what they are, statists and elitists. But I ask you this, would you go to a doctor that had a 14% approval rating? If you're being tried for a crime, would you hire a lawyer that has a 14% approval rating?
That would be one of the lawyers that would be appointed for you if you can't afford one.
Yeah, exactly. Would you even buy a car from a 14% approval rating car dealership? No.
Of course not.
No. And if you were, as an employee, working for your company, or if you owned your own company, and you as an employee or you as a company had a 14% approval rating, would you have a job? Would your company stay in business? No. That's why we've started Cowboy Logic. This is a culmination of diatribes that I've written on Facebook for the past 5 years that many conservatives have tolerated, many liberals have run away from. Some liberals have stayed with us and hung in there. But, you know, this is an opportunity to engage, which is exactly what we do on Facebook. It's exactly what we do when we sit around a dinner table and we talk about what's going on in our country. And I hope that you guys will engage. I hope that you'll help spread the word about Cowboy Logic. And let's take care of the 14% approval rating.
Let's throw the bums out.
Having said that, I want to bring in a guy that we've known for a while. I consider him to be an extremely talented musician with a band that many of you may have heard of. If you haven't, you need to Google 12 Stones. You need to YouTube them. You need to check out the videos, listen to the music. You need to buy the records. A.J. Gaynor, Aaron Gaynor, is a good friend of ours. He's a constitutional conservative and one hell of a drummer as well. We're going to open up the phone lines in a little while, 646-929-0432. Aaron will take calls, but we're going to talk to Aaron about what it's like in the music industry to be a conservative. And having said all that, I'd like to bring Aaron in. Let's have it. Aaron, are you there, buddy?
Yay!
I am, and thank you very much for that introduction. Very kind.
I'm really sorry you're not at the White House today. I mean, I thought we might not be able to get him on because I figured he'd be at this Sequester Soul concert that's going on at the White House tonight.
Oh, indeed. They must have lost my invitation in the mail.
I think so. Yeah, in the midst of the economic crunch, if nobody's heard, because I'm sure many of you are out there trying to work and make ends meet and pay your increased taxes and, you know, $3 to $4 for a gallon of gas and get your kids to karate and to basketball and everything else. But in the midst of all this sequester problems, as Rome burns, I like to say, the Obamas are partying again at the White House to the likes of Justin Timberlake singing Otis Redding's Dock of the Bay, and this is the White House's celebration of Memphis Soul. It's going to be aired on PBS later on this month. Sam Moore is there, a bunch of other people there, Mavis Staples, Charlie Musselwhite, lots of soul singers, fantastic musicians, but I still feel, I just want to know why. Why do you need to do something? It's just not right. Even if it's something that you want to try to do as your president, and I don't begrudge him having a good time as president. I'm sure it's stressful. I just don't think it portrays the right balance here, given what's going on and all the hardships everybody else is going through.
Well, there's a time and a place for everything, and I'm not so sure that there's that this is the right time or the place for this kind of thing.
Really?
AJ, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You've spent the greater part of your adult life in the rock and roll world, something that many people consider to be a life of glamour, fame, fortune, nothing but a big party. that you get paid lots of money to participate in.
Right.
Also, I think it's fair to say that in the music industry, much like Hollywood, that the majority of the people that live in that world, that are of that world, would consider themselves to be liberal, if not from a social perspective, but also maybe from a fiscal perspective. And you are clearly neither.
Right.
So my first question to you is, being a conservative, I'm assuming that you would be a small percentage of the music industry population. What was that like? And what did you ever run into situations where you just wanted to, have blood shoot out of your eyes because of what you were hearing?
That kind of thing did happen occasionally, more often than not. I will say this too: the group of people that I was surrounded with and the band that I was in, and a large part of the group that we would travel with, as far as folks that were working with us, we found that we all kind of had the similar thoughts and similar upbringings and ideas about right and wrong and social things and political things as well. And we would have our own conversations, and where that was different, if it was a sound guy or someone else who didn't see the same way we did, we would have lots of opportunities and lots of fun debating and discussing those things in the back of one of your coaches rolling down the highway. But what normally was the case was, you learned quickly that you didn't have these kinds of conversations with other musicians. You would hear them make statements, and you would hear these kind of subjects come up, but after one or two times when a room that was previously, a lot of pleasure to inhabit and a lot of fun to be in would become not the place you wanted to be because of people disagreeing. So a lot of times it would just be glossed over and it's not touched. But that's one of the things in conversations I've had before is fiscally musicians and anybody in the music industry in any genre of music depend on the free market so that people can buy their art that they've turned into a product. And so without knowing it, they all need the free market to continue to exist and to continue to be healthy. But art, which is music and all of the other forms, music being one of them, that is it's a form that expresses emotion. And if there's anything that I hear commonly put forth, and I agree with completely, is that liberalism is pretty much a movement and ideology based around emotion. And so I'm not surprised when people are paid and to indulge in their emotional state and to put it on paper and to turn it into sound and to music and to lyrics and all these things. There's no surprise that they would be liberal.
Yeah, it seems. Well, that's to me that I've always found that if you deal with actors and actresses, because it's an emotional thing. And that is really what liberalism is. And I don't begrudge somebody for wanting to care about somebody. Who is it? Winston Churchill. If you're a liberal, if you're a conservative when you're in your 20s, you don't have a heart. If you're liberal in your 40s, you don't have a brain. Something along that line. And
well, I don't necessarily think we need to call liberals brainless.
But that's the point is, when you're young and you're idealistic, which most of these people are, they want to feel good about everything. I really do believe John Kennedy getting shot back in the 60s almost pretty much woke up the younger generation to the fact that life is not a bowl of cherries. Sound like my mother.
Right.
But as you get more and more affluent, and I really find it a great thing that some of these athletes and singers do have these foundations where they're trying to do good things, but a lot of it goes right down the toilet, really. They don't know where all these millions of dollars go. It just makes them feel good. It's, it's a feeling. And yet they still don't have that more conservative change of heart when they get older, because I guess they've just grown up as liberal, and that's just the way it's going to have to be.
And really it's become a situation where liberalism and progressivism use emotionalism and use human emotion to manipulate humans into being controlled. And that's one of the reasons why it's easy to take that step and say, brainless or this or that, because it's difficult to interpret someone's behavior, a liberal's behavior, in any way other than ignorance or lack of knowledge. And I'm not trying to be, it's just what you see, because for someone like myself, and I think you guys are similar, I was raised in a pretty conservative household. It was pretty strict. We were expected to speak clearly and enunciate and read and write and get good grades and be polite and say please and thank you. And, it's a long list of things that we were taught and things that were imparted to us: taking responsibility, honesty, hard work. And I really think, we cover all these subjects, from education to parenting to the family to social issues. And it's this spectrum-wide degradation of tradition and values and moral principles in order to even get us to where we are today. That degradation has to be so great in the family, in the education system, in the personal confidence, self-worth, self-esteem, just for us to get a government like we have, for us to have a Congress with a 14% approval rating, like you'd mentioned earlier. We have to be so far down, and I think we are.
Well, the bar is low. The bar is low,
yeah.
And that starts, I agree with you, that starts at home. It starts at home. Let me ask you this. I wonder if, because in your industry, clearly there is an enormous amount of money. Now, it doesn't always go, obviously, to the people that deserve it, as you'll attest to.
Mm-hmm.
But clearly it's a money-driven industry, as you were talking about. You got to sell records, you got to sell tickets, you got to sell merchandise, and you got to do it year-round, all the time, and if you don't, you fail.
Which is a capitalist thing.
Exactly.
Which makes no sense when you've got people being extremely liberal. Well, look at Michael Moore. He's a gazillionaire. Okay?
Yeah, but there are very few gazillionaires. And the thing is, I think what ends up happening is that there are two very different political views, or social views: social liberalism and social conservatism, as well as fiscal liberalism and fiscal conservatism. And I wonder if, in the music industry, if there's not a big struggle that goes on within some of these people, in which they have clearly some social or some liberal social views, and understandably so.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, they're struggling with the fact that they really ought to be having some rather conservative fiscal views.
Right, I agree. I wonder at what point it hits them, or it crosses their mind, or they, being whoever they would be, when they become aware of that kind of thing. Because I think that's another one of the issues that we deal with, is that folks, as all of us can and do, and probably should, in a real right, free, secure, great country, we just allow ourselves, we just live our lives. We get absorbed in what we're doing daily. We get absorbed in what we've taken on and where we're going. And the bigger things, like what happens politically and the things that take place on the decade-long scale or longer, aren't as important. And that has something probably to do with youth as well. But what I really believe is people, because it feels good to say these folks need help, this person needs assistance, this government dole is needed for this group, that makes them say, we're helping. Yes, the destitute are being helped and the hungry are being fed, and they don't realize that whatever change it is or whatever system it is that they're supporting is one that's designed to really kill it all and take over all of these other aspects of life that they don't have the ability, or that they're not taking the time at that point to think about and understand the effects. And it's really, yeah, exactly. There's no big picture. There's no perspective. There's no awareness. They don't see some kind of systematic dismemberment of freedom. They see, those people need help. Let's help them. And it's just not even, it makes them feel good. And there's no thought. There's no right or wrong even applied.
And you brought up something just a second ago in which, we're all getting on with our daily lives. I mean, Lord knows my plate is full, Donna's plate is full, I assume yours is, and so is everybody else. And I think part of the problem is that our politicians understand that, and they play on it, and they oversaturate many people's ability, all of us, quite frankly, our ability to wrap our heads around everything that's going on, and that goes into a big progressive MO in which you just create confusion. If you create confusion,
what's happening now.
Then people buckle at the knee, and they just look to the parental unit or the government to save them. And I think that is what's happening.
And those parental units are a bunch of cone heads.
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live.
You know, a lot of the questions are how do we start to undo some of this damage, and that's the most difficult thing, because the way that it's been undone is through an evolution and a change and a kind of a rot that got in the roots of our education system and got in the roots of our social fabric, and that's really difficult. That takes that kind of to get rid of that takes a lot of pain, because we would have to, you know, cut back on all of those kinds of social programs and all of those things, and people would be hurt. There would be an immediate feeling of detriment. There would be consequences for that. But in the long term, the what we would reap and what would come for it would be great. But we've also, on top of all of these other things, lost our patience to a degree, I think. Mm-hmm. We're used to having the food now and the phone now and the entertainment now and the music now and the transportation now and everything. So the perspectives are really messed up. And it's usually hard times and large consequences that reawaken awareness and perspective in people. And I hope that we can do some of those reawakenings and changing perspectives without those detrimental consequences and huge consequences. But it's unlikely. Yeah,
and that's what revolutions are made of, unfortunately. How about this this woman from MSNBC who's some, I don't know, think tank, or I think she works at a college somewhere, university, Melissa Harris Perry, which hyphenated names right off the bat drive me nuts. But she said, you didn't have that kid, because what's happening now is the education system has dumbed down everybody, in my opinion. The public education system, through, for the last 100 years, has dumbed down everything. Everything is cradle to grave, literally. In fact, some of the money that Obama says he wants now with his new budget is to increase kindergarten and preschool and all kinds of other stuff. So she actually came out and said, you didn't have that kid, essentially. Remember, you didn't build that, you didn't make that. You know what Obama said? She's pretty much saying you didn't have that kid. She advocates that we end the, quote, private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families. Hitler Youth comes to mind to me on that one.
Absolutely, and I did hear that quote, and it's absolutely shocking to me, but at the same time, after I feel that moment of shock, immediately what kicks in is, why should I be shocked? What have they not said previously that wouldn't have led us to believe that something like this can come out of their mouths? And that goes right to the heart of personal property, too, which is essential for liberty. And we're not supposed to own anything. Socialism and communism, it's total. The kids or the community, the food from your gardens belongs to the community. Your car belongs to the community. Every habit you have is detrimental or not to the community. It's become.
If that's
go ahead.
Do you mind if I use your drum set for a little while?
I guess if I don't let you, then I'm a racist.
Yeah,
you would be. You would be. How many kits do you have that I can pick from?
I'm going to tell you that I have one.
Yeah, because you don't need more than one. In fact, you don't
exactly.
Really need one.
So all of these policies that they think are so great cause people to then become a liar. Because it doesn't matter how many drum kits I have, as far as you're concerned. If you're going to want it to be community property, I have one. Or zero. You know what I mean?
I just want you to redistribute that drum set to me.
And then you have neighbors that are going to be squealing on neighbors.
And at the same time, you can play on my next record for free.
we'll have to lease each of the pieces of the drum kit from those that we've distributed to, though, in order to record that recording, which will make it more expensive for the people who will then want to purchase it.
Well, what you could do is you could give the drum set for free, but charge money for the cases and the sticks.
Well, that's true, because just like a gun, you have a gun, but if you can't shoot it with no bullets, what good is it going to do you?
Exactly.
Right. Very well
Speaking
put.
of which, let's get to the point with Napolitano there, Big Sis, having 5 hollow point bullets for every man, woman, and child in the United States.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, what exactly has the Department of Homeland Security done as far as protecting us? Have they caught one terrorist? No.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I guess we've heard stories of plots being, thwarted.
Yeah.
But it seems like the agencies that I hear associated with that are always FBI or, something like that.
Well, there was a heads-up taxi driver in Times Square that called one guy. The shoe bomber was alert people on an airplane. He obviously went through security checks. See, this is the whole, like we were saying before, leave no crisis left unturned. It's classic Marxism, socialism. This way you keep everybody in turmoil. We're all trying to earn a living. We're trying to make ends meet. We're trying to raise our kids, educate our kids. And in the meantime, we're wondering if the government's going to come in now at this point and confiscate our 401ks, take our money, tell us what kind of cars to drive, tell us what kind of light bulb we can have.
Seeds to plant, going to seize your farmland. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. It's, I'm surprised the chicks that we bought, we were making ourselves food sufficient, and we bought some baby chicks, and they've been very quiet while I've been on the phone, but we've got it all planned. Huge garden, baby chicks for some eggs and some meat, going to have some goats for some milk and some cheeses, and who knows what's going to take place. Regardless of what it is, I do think there's going to be a lot of difficulty and challenge and heartache associated with it. And it's saddening. And especially when I have conversations with my grandfather, who's just turned 89 and, born in 1925, lived through so much. And I ask him about what's going on, and he just shakes his head and looks at me, and I know that look. It's just deep, deep, deep disappointment. And he's absolutely right, and we should all be deeply disappointed.
They've seen it. They've lived through it. They saw what happened to Europe in World War II. They don't want to have this repeated. But if you've got an education system like I had, I went to public school, never, ever was American history taught. If anything, this whole anti-colonialist thing, which is what Obama grew up as, in Indonesia and still in the public school here, it's basically anti-American. We are seen as interlopers. We are seen as the people who came here and killed off the Indians, the Native Americans, if you will. And, so this country didn't belong to us, and therefore it needs to go back. And it's just amazing to me how you sit there. It's almost like a spoiled child picking on their successful parents when the parents are handing them everything on a silver platter. So. Yeah,
exactly. Yep.
Well, AJ, we have come to the end of this segment, and I really do appreciate you joining us. AJ Gaynor from the group 12 Stones, a professional drummer. We do thank you for joining us. We have Stan Levy coming up next, and John Bergquist from Newtown, Connecticut is going to be our guest at 10 o'clock. You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio, the Cowboy Logic Radio Network.
You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Adnormous Graphics has extensive experience in large format vinyl graphics production and installation. What the heck does that mean? Well, Adnormous Graphics specializes in vehicle graphics and other large-scale displays. If it's worth branding, Adnormous Graphics knows how to brand it. You need to turn heads to turn profits. Adnormous Graphics gets heads turning to your company. When other companies say no job is too big or too small, well, Adnormous Graphics actually means it. Let's take, for example, a map of the United States that shows all the red states and all the blue states. Adnormous Graphics can wrap that map life-size. That's right, and they can customize it. Tired of California being a blue state? No problem. Call Adnormous Graphics and ask them to wrap the entire state of California in red vinyl. Problem solved. No more blue state. Well, speaking of a map of the United States, Adnormous Graphics offers nationwide service and installation. Remember, you need to turn heads to turn profits. Adnormous Graphics gets heads turning to your company. Call them at 770-333-2790 for Adnormous Graphics. That's 770-333-2790. If you're ready for Adnormous results, call Adnormous Graphics at 770-333-2790.
This is Aaron Gaynor from the band 12 Stones, and you're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio, where conservatives and libertarians go to suckle at the breast of the Constitution.
You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Hi, I am Parker. I am only 15 years old, and I am already sick and tired of what our politicians at the local, state, and federal level are doing to my financial future. I am sick of the irresponsibility of our elected officials and the lobbyists who continue to financially abuse my country. I am a 15-year-old kid. I approve this message, and I listen to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. Government is the problem. Government is the problem. Government is the problem.
You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Don't you just wish you could do that to the turds in Congress?
You know, do me a favor. Could you say senator instead of ma'am?
I love these members that get up and say, read the bill.
What difference at this point does it make?
The whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
We know that the free market is nonsense.
This liberal will be all about socializing, will be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
The time has come for unfiltered, politically incorrect common sense. Welcome to the wild world of Cowboy Logic.
And welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen, and we want to thank our premier guest here on Cowboy Logic, who just joined us last half hour, AJ Gaynor from the band 12 Stones. Again, please Google 12 Stones if you've never heard the band's music. Wonderful, wonderful stuff, and we invite you to go check out his music and the number of albums, actually, that 12 Stones has had through the years. Our phone number here at Cowboy Logic Radio is 646-929-0432. That's 646-929-0432. Or on the web, what you can do is just log on to cowboylogic.us. It's one word, cowboylogic.us. And then as you get onto the website, there's a Listen Live button. You just click on that, and you can listen over your computer or whatever it is that you listen to on the web. You know, I was listening to that introduction. Just
I miss Ronald Reagan is what I miss.
Man.
I miss Reagan, and God bless
Thatcher.
Margaret Thatcher.
Yep. Did you see today they were actually dancing pretty much on her grave, celebrating the fact that she passed away, these morons in England.
Yes.
You just, you know, it's almost, I want to say they know not what they do. They really, it's just pathetic. It really is. But that is the culmination, again, of what we were talking about, lack of education. To which brings me now to our next guest, because
we've got a guy here that's like overly educated, and
Stanley,
I feel so inferior.
I really do. Stan, how many degrees do you have from Georgia Tech?
I only got one from Georgia Tech.
Oh, only one.
Oh, only one from Georgia Tech.
How many degrees do you have?
2.5. I never finished the thesis for my electrical engineering master's, so I never got that.
Oh my gosh!
Way to quit.
Yeah, really.
There were extenuating circumstances.
I'm sure there were.
I really do feel so inadequate. Stan, you have a website. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, it's just a blog. It's called blackmanthinking.com. Blackmanthinking, all one word. And although I haven't been as active recently as I want to be, and I'm going to fix that, it is basically there to take a look at things from the standpoint of, you know, what are these people actually trying to tell me? And it's a pushback on all things that are not just liberal, but just strange. The problem is, of course, most of the stuff that liberals come up with falls under the category of strange, so you end up taking more shots at them than anybody else. But it is basically there trying to get people to do one thing, and that is think. Because for me, one of the biggest challenges we have right now is there's a lot of acceptance of information with no critical thought whatsoever. People just accept things because they say it. Oh yeah, well, you gotta blame someone, and
well, they're gonna fix that with CORE.
Oh,
CORE is this new education curriculum that they're pushing through?
Oh, that nonsense.
Yeah.
It's an extension of No Child Left Behind.
If we're gonna talk about education, you know, just to get down to the basic thing, someone explained to me why government involvement in public education is somebody's idea of a success story.
Name me one thing the government has done that is a success story. One thing. People used to say the military. That's not the case now, even.
Well, you guys both ask questions. You guys both ask questions, and I'm going to answer it.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Enlighten us, please.
Teachers unions.
Well, yeah.
The NEA.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess I need to get more clarity on the term success.
Well, they are successful. They really actually are seeing what they've tried come to fruition at this point, because the government is becoming the plantation. And for lack of a better way of saying it, Herman Cain said it best. He got off the government plantation, and they hit him for it. Now, as a black man, Stan, that's what really I really like to talk to you about here. Are you ostracized because you don't, stick to the norm? Do people get mad at you because you grab your, briefcase when you go off to work instead of a basketball? I mean, let's be honest here. This stereotypical stuff where they vilify anybody who's successful blows my mind, unless you're a rap artist or an athlete.
Well, the simple answer is anyone who is black and does not follow what passes for conventional black thinking, for lack of a better term, you're going to get criticized. That's just the way that is. The real issue comes with how you're handling it, because the whole idea of the criticism is to discredit you and move you to silence. And that's where it comes down to, are you saying what you believe, or are you saying what you can demonstrate? Now, of course, I believe what I say, but the first thing is, my concern is, okay, what is the truth? It doesn't matter what I think about what the truth is. The question is, what is it? After that, there's plenty of ammunition and documentation, up to and including scripture, which most liberals really have a problem with, to basically verify that what I'm saying is correct. If you are someone who is afraid to tell the truth, then those who know nothing about the truth will have a way to silence you. It's as simple as that. It does take a modicum of courage, but you know what? There are more people listening than criticizing. It's just the ones that are criticizing are extremely vocal and extremely, they can be vitriolic. So, being a black person, because as you guys probably know, Hannity actually had a show last night where he brought on.
I actually saw that. I was going to ask you about that. I found that very interesting. Dr. Benjamin Carson was there.
I found it interesting, but for me there is this concern. I know what Hannity was trying to do, and by extension, I understand what Fox was trying to do. But the whole problem of doing that show was, well, let's go ahead and reinforce the idea of segregation by color. Let's bring the black conservatives on. Well, wait a minute. One of the whole ideas behind conservatism is, what's color got to do with it?
Well, I think what he was trying to say is, it's okay if you're black to say you're conservative.
Yeah, but I understand Stan's point.
Here's the thing: if you're a black conservative, the last thing you need. And I'm not saying this to be inciting anything. I'm not saying it to be insulting. The last thing I need as a black conservative is a white guy telling me it's okay to be black and conservative.
Well,
exactly. Exactly. Hey, Stan, let me ask you a question.
You got a point there.
I have had numerous debates with wonderful friends of mine that are black about politics. And one thing that I can never quite understand in these debates is why on earth, if you study history, if you look back over history over the past 50, 60 years, that a black person would vote Democrat. I don't understand it. And I'll have these debates. I'll hear great answers from folks, but I still don't get it. And maybe it's because I'm a white guy, but I don't get it.
No. Well, the only thing that you did not get as a white guy is what I call the South Pacific treatment. You guys remember the song from South Pacific, "You Have to Be Carefully Taught." You did not get the careful teaching. You did not get the consistent inferences and sayings about how white people feel about you, how Latin and Hispanic people feel about you, how much they dislike you. You haven't heard. You didn't get a steady diet of that. You were not indoctrinated. You missed the indoctrination of why the Democrat Party somehow, despite the fact that they are the party of racism, they are the party of segregation, they are the party of welfare, they are the party of everything that has actually harmed black people in this country. You missed the indoctrination that says, well, we're black and therefore we vote Democrat. This is not, and what you're asking for people to do, which is something that not a lot of people will do. One, which is educate themselves against the people with whom they're familiar. And then the second thing is be willing to stand for what they understand to be correct against those same people. I'm just strange that way, and obviously I'm not the only one who's strange that way. But, some of my best friends are black, but I believe what I believe.
Now listen, Stan.
Let me ask you.
That was borderline racist right there. That was borderline.
You can't be a racist.
Hold on one second, Donna. I want to go back to Lyndon B. Johnson.
Oh yeah.
And discuss back when he was in office something that I was having a debate one night with a white, very liberal, very intelligent, good friend of mine.
Okay.
And I brought up the fact that Lyndon B. Johnson made it very vocal, very clear that he was going to secure for the Democrat Party the black vote, in which they would never, ever vote Republican again, and he would do it through entitlements. And I brought this up to my friend, and I had a deer in the headlights look going on. He just, I've never heard that. I can't believe that. I said, look it up.
Well, that's what I want to say. Stan, in your life, whether they be black or white, people you speak to that normally are on the left, if you hit them with facts, if they're open-minded at all, do you get that deer in the headlights? Do you find people maybe might be swayed? Because to me it just seems it's such a generational thing because the education system is not there. And now I hope that it's not too late, but people are seeing the effects of extreme liberalism and progressivism happening, like a tidal wave coming over us now. And if they're successful in any way, shape, or form, they've got, their financial future at risk, their kids' future at risk, their very lives at risk in some cases. If you're looking at what the Department of Homeland Security has 5 bullets for every man, woman, and child in this country, you start to wonder. Because if history does repeat itself, we are in serious trouble.
Well, you're absolutely right. And you come back to something, when you talk to people and you hit them with information which is outside of the dogma, for lack of a better term, the reaction, which I believe is part of the teaching, is to be insulted.
Yeah.
And to react from the standpoint of I've been insulted. And I have a saying, as far as I know it's mine, which is, the harder you are to insult, the easier you are to enlighten. When it's easy to insult people, the first thing they do is they shut down and they cannot hear because they've been insulted. And when facts and objective information insults you, then that does point to a failure of what traditional education was supposed to do, which is to help people bring out their natural abilities and talents by presenting them objective information to stimulate their minds and therefore bring those talents and abilities to bear. Okay, we don't do that now. What we are trying to do now is teach collectivism. And it's strange. It's collectivism and individual self-esteem, but only the collective can reinforce your individual self-esteem. We all have to think alike so that you can have individual self-esteem. So if somebody is stupid, we don't want to make them feel stupid. Therefore, we are not going to teach anyone anything beyond what we believe the stupid person can stretch to learn. And as a result, we keep stepping backwards. I mean,
dumbing down the education system.
Well, but the thing is, it's not so much about the education system dumbing down. It's about a hijacking of the education system for another purpose.
Oh, absolutely. It's indoctrination. Absolute indoctrination. The government really, in more ways than one, has become the parent, as evidenced by this lunatic woman from MSNBC coming flat out and saying, essentially, it's not your kid. Again, this quote is amazing to me. She advocates the end of the private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families. That's her exact quote. I mean, it
was. I listened to that several times, and actually I had a spirited Facebook debate with a true believer who basically, and this to me, the reason I bring that up is what you heard, which is simply what she said, and having enough historical context to know where that leads. This person had neither of those, and was basically trying to reinterpret her words into something different than what she said. And that is
skewed. And the mainstream media, which MSNBC, I guess, is really just an arm of the White House at this point. It's unbelievable to me that they've, as part of the media that I was, and nobody wants to, a lot of people on the left don't believe me when I say this, but I never was asked to give my opinion on anything, to slant it to the right when I worked at Fox. None of that was ever said. And I worked at a bunch of other local stations in New York City that were anything but to the right. I worked at Fox 5. I worked at NBC. If anything, it was those stations on the left that wanted their news basically skewed to if it bleeds, it leads, and sensationalism. None of the right-leaning producers or whatever that I worked with ever tried to push the talent in that direction. They said, just report what you see. And at this point, given the fact that Obama's already been reelected, it's mind-boggling even to me how in the tank they are for this guy and how they have not started to turn on him. I mean, even the mainstream media turned on Jimmy Carter after a while because you just can't that blatant.
Jimmy Carter did not represent a larger agenda. That's true. That is the problem. Jimmy Carter was just an ideologue. Period. He didn't have an agenda. He didn't have anything. He just said, accept less, and we'll be okay if you just accept less. He wanted the country to simply accept decline, whereas Barack Obama is actively working to bring it about. That's two different things. And of course, when you say that, you get the normal thing from those on the left is, how can you say that?
How can you say that?
He's done that. And the only thing is, I'm paraphrasing a quote of Milton Friedman's. You don't judge policy by its intent. You judge it by its consequence. No one can point to anything that Barack Obama has done or has even attempted to do. I'm not saying that the difference between doing and saying. There's a lot of things he says, but you can't point to anything that he has done or attempted to do that has in any way been of benefit to the country. Otherwise, the reason I can say that is, well, why do we have 3 times the money in circulation now than we had when he came into office? How does that help the country? It does not.
Yeah. I think Ben Bernanke is a whole other story. To me, Bernanke is one of the single most horrific people as far as the demise of this country is concerned with what he's doing.
I agree with that. But if you think that is not part of the Obama calculation as to what to do, excuse me, Ben Bernanke is an idiot because he is following what has been shown historically to fail every time it's tried.
Yeah, but they don't care because they have power. It'll give them more power. It's all a power struggle.
Ben Bernanke is an idiot. However, if you think that Barack Obama did not know what the idiot would do if he ran the economy into the ground, then I don't know what to tell you.
No, I believe that they're in cahoots together, but that's just my...
No, it's not even being in cahoots together. Ben Bernanke's tendencies are being played. It's simple as that. He knows what Bernanke is going to do, therefore, let me keep putting these things out there and doing my best to cause those things that will keep that man printing money, and I will simply make no comment about what he does at all. He in my mind, he's taking this stuff into, for granted. I know what this person is going to do in this situation. Let me bring about the situation. Okay, so he's done it.
Yeah, it's amazing how fast we've slipped and slid, or whatever you want to say, proper English is, into this area. I mean, now we've got 15% of the people on food stamps. An enormous amount of people now are learning how to bilk the system. Whereas before, when you'd say to somebody, you have to, it's a shame if you're on food stamps, or a shame if you're on welfare, and people actually make it uncomfortable to pull out that, food stamp card or whatever it is, instead of possibly going out and getting a job. Now, granted, there's a lot of people that do need it and really are falling on hard times, and that's what the whole system was for. But now you've got people who are bilking the system and actually saying to other people, hey, I can do it, you can do it too. And if you hurt your back or something, now you've got these slip and fall lawyers you see on TV that are making billions. I want to say something like 650,000 people have dropped out of the workforce. Many of them, tens of thousands, have gone on to disability. And that is bilking the system. Eventually, the system is going to collapse. And if you keep trying to vilify those who produce, like this guy in the White House does, where you're pretty much punishing those who are paying the bills, how do you expect it to have anything but an economic collapse?
Well, I think it's also it's all part of design.
Yeah, that's the grand design.
That and that Cowboy is it. The one thing that makes everything easier to understand is why would anyone keep believing that Barack Obama wants anything that we would consider good for the United States? He does not.
That's what Ben Carson said. It was vilified for it. He basically said if I wanted to destroy the country, I'd do exactly what Obama's doing, and now he's vilified for it.
Well, it's a combination of that and the ever important word control.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing, but and that's a very important thing. All we're trying to do, all this administration is trying to do. And actually, I heard something this morning. I think it was actually on Limbaugh. I was in the car this morning. We talked about it. That Ted Cruz, Senator Cruz from Texas, he put out a document that showed 6 Supreme Court cases where the Supreme Court actually denied the administration certain powers that would have lessened, that would have made, significant differences in the amount of individual liberty that citizens have. I can't remember exactly what they were. But what we're missing is, first of all, you have the media which does not report. How many people knew that Barack Obama was suing Boeing for opening a plant in South Carolina to build planes? It took forever for that story to come to light. How many people know that there are 6 Supreme Court cases that the Justice Department lost under Eric Holder that were designed to turn back individual liberties? That's not being reported. Why is this going on? There is taking people whom we have trained by the progressive/liberal, and they're interchangeable terms. Liberal and progressive are the same. We have gone. We allowed them into the school system. Whoever was asleep at the switch when that happened, which is probably all of us, needs to be taken out back and shot. But we put them there, and now they're in.
Well, Stan, we're losing our connection with you. Stan Levy, Black Man Thinking, PHINKIN. Correct? No G at the end of it. BlackManThinking.com. Check it out. His blog. I'm going to get Stan back on you next week. I'll to apologize for that. You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio. Stay tuned. John Bergquist is coming. coming up was friends with Adam Lanza's mother, Nancy Lanza, and we'll be speaking to him in just a moment.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Hey everybody, this is Stan Levy, also known as the Black Man Thinking out here in California. When I'm not dealing with the friends of Governor Moonbeam out here, I tune into Cowboy Logic. Hope you do too.
Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid are afraid to call Cowboy Logic Radio. But you don't need to be. Our phone lines are now open. Give us a call. Area code 646-929-0432. Don't be a Nancy Pelosi. Don't be a Harry Reid. Give us a call at Cowboy Logic Radio.
Shalom. I'm Hagit Canary, the Israeli field correspondent for Cowboy Logic Radio, and I'm listening to the Cowboy Logic Radio from Ashdod, southern Israel. How cool is that?
You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
The Cowboy Logic Radio phone lines are now open. Give us a call at 646-929-0432.
My name is Isabel. I'm from the beautiful city of Torrance, California, and I listen to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Would you like to have more friends on Facebook? Would you like to have more followers on Twitter? Or would you just like to be more popular at the office? Well, you can have it all. And the way to do it is to be heard as a caller on Cowboy Logic Radio. Our phone lines are now open. So give us a call at 646-929-0432 and become more popular and have more friends.
This is real rock star wife and cancer-fighting ninja Jill Gaynor, hailing from the great red state of North Dakota, and you're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
You know, do me a favor. Could you say senator instead of ma'am?
I love these members that get up and say, read the bill.
What difference at this point does it make?
The whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
We know that the free market is nonsense.
This liberal will be all about socializing, will be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
The time has come for unfiltered, politically incorrect common sense. Welcome to the wild world of Cowboy Logic.
Welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen. Our phone number again is 646-929-0432, 646-929-0432, or you can listen on the web. It's cowboylogic, one word, .us. And as you get on that website, you can see the listen live button. Just click on that, and you can also check out archive shows, which after this show is over, we'll actually have one in there, since this is our debut show. I want to bring on a gentleman that we've gotten to know on our Facebook page that I just can't imagine what he went through and what he's still going through. His name is John Bergquist, and John lives in Newtown, Connecticut, and he was a friend of Nancy Lanza, who was Adam Lanza, the Newtown shooter, the Sandy Hook shooter's mom.
Can I add something here about John?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I met John on Facebook shortly after the Sandy Hook tragedy, in which I'd made a few posts. And John hit me in one of my diatribes, and I clearly could tell that he and I were residing on different sides of the political aisle. But he struck me as a very articulate, intelligent, kind, and respectful gentleman. And I hope that I struck him the same. At any rate, we had a few conversations about the Sandy Hook situation, as well as some other political issues that we discussed. And we struck a friendship that I hope others can do the same thing. And that is that despite where you sit politically, you're able to engage in debate on a respectful level, respect for each other, at the same time remaining very passionate, which is critically important. But I tip my hat to John, and I also tip him for being brave enough to come into the wild world of Cowboy Logic, Cowboy Logic Radio. But this guy has a story to tell. We're going to get a very interesting perspective because he was close friends with Nancy. And John, I trust that you're in here since I already brought you into the show. Are you there, buddy?
Yes, I'm here, Don. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. How's everything up in the lovely gun-free state of Connecticut?
Well, everything's pretty tranquil here up in the gun-free state of Connecticut. And thank you for those kind words that you said about me. You're a fantastic person yourself, and I always enjoy our conversations on Facebook. They're insightful and they're respectful, and I enjoy your company as well.
Be honest, man. Be honest. Tell me that I have made blood shoot out of your eyes.
Well, not
at
yet.
least once.
The blood might have been boiling, but I don't think it's been shooting out of my eyes yet.
Do you wear contacts?
I don't wear contacts, so we should be good in case of any blood that might spill out of my eyes.
Well, listen, we are going to devote, as you well know, the remaining hour to speaking with you about the tragedy that took place in Sandy Hook, as well as I would like to get into a little bit about the legislation that was passed up there, and you and I might bump some heads on that a little bit, but that's always healthy.
Absolutely.
And also, I don't know if you've had a chance to review some of the viral videos that are on YouTube that discuss the bizarre hoax that people are claiming actually took place up in Sandy Hook, or at Sandy Hook Elementary.
Yeah, we had talked about that, and I did check them out on YouTube, and and for some reason I do have, as insulting as it is that people actually think that it's a hoax, I have some kind of, morbid curiosity that what goes off in these people's minds that they think that there's some kind of hoax, some cover-up. I live here, and it happened. I lost a friend who was very close to me. There aren't that many degrees of separation here in Newtown, and I know people who were affected in many other ways. So unless it's
I think a lot of the hoax videos, whether it's 9/11 conspiracy videos, or something as sickening as a hoax video about the Sandy Hook massacre. Donna always says this with regard to the media: if it bleeds, it leads. And when they create these hoax videos, there's a reason that you've got a video that has 12 million hits on YouTube, or 1.4 million hits on YouTube. You see the word hoax, you're going to click it and you're going to watch it. And then you're either going to be swayed by what you saw, or you're going to go, this is a crock. And I know after speaking with you that I know that I don't buy into the hoax videos. I disagree with the solution to the problem. But at any rate, tell us a little bit about your relationship with Nancy, and what kind of impact this has had on your life as well as the community. But you, in our conversations, in our previous conversations, you shared with me some of the the facts of the relationship that you had with Nancy.
Well, she was just a wonderful friend. I met her about 2 years before the tragedy. There's a restaurant and bar located around the corner from my house, and I started to become a regular there. I'd go there for a bite to eat, and a glass of Chardonnay. And Nancy was one of the first people that I met there at the restaurant, and she was just she had that personality that lit up the room. Her smile lit up the room. She was interesting to talk to, intelligent. She was a kind, caring person, compassionate, everything you could ask for in a friend. She's somebody who was easy to talk to. And as you got to know her and you got to talk about your problems, she's one of those people who just got you. She understood the problems that you were presenting to her. Maybe she wasn't able to help you, but she'd understand, and even if she couldn't help you, she'd be like, "Well, that's a problem. I don't know what to say, but at least I had comfort and a good friend." She loved to laugh. She loved to give you hugs when you walked into the room, and she just loved living life. And I enjoyed talking to her and spending time with her, and I'm certainly going to miss her.
Well, I know you told me at one point that you've still got text messages from her in your phone, and I know, having lost my mom, there's things like that, emails, text messages that I've kept since 2005. So, it's a very difficult thing. You did not ever meet or know Adam, am I correct?
Yes, I never met Adam at all. The only thing I know about him is what Nancy has told me, and obviously among mutual friends, we've discussed this since the tragedy, and some of our mutual friends have met him, so those are the only things that I know about him, but I've never met him in person.
What is the community up there talking about regarding indicators that Adam would have exhibited? Because obviously, being 900 miles away from you or 2,500 miles away from you and listening to this on a national news level, we're hearing all kinds of stuff, that the guy was terribly troubled, that she was considering committing him, that he was highly medicated, that he was emotionally disturbed. You hear all this stuff. What's the community's take on where this kid was at that led to this kind of a terrible decision on his part?
Oh, there's no question that what he did was, it's unspeakable. It's horrific. And my prayers go out to the families who lost their loved ones on that day, especially the people who lost young kids, 6 and 7 years old. It's just unimaginable. In terms of what Nancy had ever told me, there was nothing to ever indicate this. She did say that he had Asperger's, which is a mild form of autism. He was socially awkward, painfully shy. He was super intelligent. He would like researching topics on the internet. She would take him for swimming lessons, for music lessons. She would, once he graduated from high school, I don't know exactly how that worked, but she pulled him out of high school at one point. I don't know if he got his GED or she did homeschooling, but she took him to college classes. She was always trying to get him involved in society and not be languishing at home. And in terms of other people that I've talked to concerning Adam, there was just no indication. There was just no indication of violence. He was a strange kid, but nobody would have thought that he would have been capable of something like this. If anything, he would have been a target for bullying and
ostracism,
picking on him.
Yeah,
and he was
absolutely
bullied, right? He was a victim of bullying, wasn't he?
Well, I've read things about that. Just recently in the Daily News, one of Nancy's close friends said she confided in him that Adam was in fact bullied at Sandy Hook Elementary. And I can't comment on the accuracy of the story that was some sort of revenge, but in terms of what she described to me, he would have been somebody who would have been a target for bullying. Whether that actually happened, I don't know. I'm sure she tried to limit it. I know from what I read in the Daily News article the other day, she actually sat in on some classes at Sandy Hook Elementary to make sure that did not happen. But she never told me about Adam being bullied or anything of that sort.
Was it well known that she was a gun owner? Was that something that she ever even brought up to you?
Yes, she did bring it up to me that she was a gun owner. I knew that she had several guns, that she enjoyed going to the shooting range, and it was an activity that she enjoyed sharing with her son. I assume with her two boys. She has another son as well, but in particular, I think it was her way of maybe connecting with Adam, who was very withdrawn, and it was a way that she could connect with him.
Right. How familiar are you with the legislation that was passed up there?
I'm fairly familiar with it. I know that we already have one of the strictest, already had one of the strictest gun control laws, set of gun control laws in the nation. But since the tragedy, and this was the legislation that they enacted the other day, I think, I don't know how many more military-style weapons they banned. I know, obviously, the AR-15, the Bushmaster was the one that was used in the tragedy. That was no doubt on the list, and many others. They limited the magazine size to 10 rounds, and they've strengthened the background checks. The comprehensive background checks.
I always play devil's advocate. None of this is going to stop what happened from happening. And all our lawmakers do, whether it be something along this line or anything, health care, whatever, it's this, whenever there's a crisis, they feel that the need to have to do something, make it look like they're working or something. Because to me, like you say, Connecticut already had, I believe it was the fourth strictest gun control legislation in the country. Chicago has one of the strictest. Both places, I mean, Connecticut's not violent like Chicago is, but Chicago has one of the highest murder rates per capita, if not the highest in the country. So what's happening now is it's almost like a something for show, because like they say, when guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns. I mean, do you feel safer? Do you think this is really going to help?
Well, I do, and I can't speak for Chicago. I mean, I know a lot of people on the conservative end of the spectrum, they always point to the Chicago statistics, but I'm sure it's not just because of the gun control. There are a lot of other factors.
Well, the big issue that I'm having with the entire registration, the banning, the extreme background checks that is trying to be legislated right now is that, quite frankly, I think they're trying to do two things. Number one, they're trying to further control. Number two, they're trying to put a Band-Aid on a problem that simply is not going to fix the problem. I don't know of much that could have prevented Adam from doing what he did unless someone in the school was able to take him out the minute they saw him walk into a school with an AR-15. And
which he didn't have, by the way. Supposedly the actual shootings in the school were done with the handgun.
That I don't know. I've heard the opposite. I've heard the opposite of that.
I heard the rifles were in the car, and the handgun was the one thing he got in the school. Now, unfortunately, I don't believe that was the case.
No, I think they found a bunch of spent 223 or 5.56 rounds. But again,
well, now you're saying, as you say though, if a teacher or the principal had a gun, this would not have been as tragic.
Well, John, and you and I may have discussed this point. You know that I carry a weapon, that I have a concealed weapons permit that I can legally carry. I've gone through background checks. All of my weapons have been purchased legally. And if I had a child at that school, well, the problem is I wouldn't have been able to be in the school carrying a pistol on my side. They wouldn't have let me in.
Right.
But if I'd have been out in the parking lot putting my gun away and I would have seen Adam walking into the school, maybe something could have been done about it. Or if an administrator would be trained and have a firearm, maybe something could have been done about it. But what we know is that since no one in there was able to defend anybody against somebody like this, nothing was able to be done about it. Period.
I understand.
Well, sitting ducks. You become a sitting duck, and I believe that when you enact laws like this, studies have shown that has quite the opposite effect that you're trying to acquire in the first place. There's one thing, John, that is going on right now that I'm not sure you even saw. and that is President Obama is basically saying that the Republicans and those that are opposing this gun legislation that they're trying to do in Washington is grandstanding and this and that. And then he's flown in some of these parents on Air Force One, so I guess they can show up at these hearings on Thursday in Washington, D.C. So talk about grandstanding. It's kind of what he's doing in the first place, too. Exploiting, essentially, these poor parents that have had these kids that were killed.
But I think that they believe wholeheartedly in what they're doing. I don't think the president is using them at all. I know that they've spoke numerous times, about the need for tougher gun control legislation. And as far as the president's concerned, I totally take him at his word that he was, he was very deeply affected by this tragedy. And I think it is the Republicans who are grandstanding on this issue, and just bring it up for a vote, up or down. Don't be threatening a filibuster. I don't think that's the right way to go about it. I think it's it's insulting and hurtful to the families of Newtown, because they certainly wholeheartedly believe that it's not guns aren't. I agree, they're not 100% of the problem, but it's not the guns, but in a way, it is the guns.
Well, this is a constitutional thing. That's what the Republicans are grandstanding about, which, again, is not being reported in the mainstream media. It's not a filibuster because people don't, want children to be safe. It's a filibuster because it's a constitutional amendment, essentially, that's being done without being brought up with a constitutional Congress.
Well, and there's also
this is a violation of the Second Amendment.
Exactly, and there's also no idea what's in this bill.
Yeah, it's just like Obamacare. We got to pass it and then read it again and look at the abomination Obamacare is. No pun intended.
I mean, as a gun owner, I have absolutely no problem whatsoever with implementing laws that protect innocent people, but I'm totally against doing it as a result of limiting what law-abiding citizens can do that fall under the Second Amendment. But we disagree.
Well, it's the court of public opinion, and that's exactly what the administration and the left is trying to take advantage of, which, again, is leave no crisis left unused. It's classic, way he operates.
Well, I don't know about that. It is, Obama pledged not to touch guns and all of that, and I certainly took him at his word. And, as a liberal myself, I was very happy to let people who wanted to own a gun own a gun. In fact, I'm for your basic Second Amendment rights. I think people should have access to firearms if they want to. But when this tragedy happened, I think it changed. It certainly changed public opinion, and I think that's what drives our politicians. I don't take a cynical look at it. I think, the president and other politicians, that wasn't really high on their priority list. But because this happened, I think that's what made them take a second look at it.
My concern, though, again, is we don't know what's in the bill.
And hurry up. You got to pass it. You got to pass it now.
And between that proof of the fact that this Congress will pass legislation that none of us have, that they don't have any idea of what's in it. That's what bothers me.
That blows my mind. That totally blows my mind, by the way. How can you pass something when you haven't even read the darn thing or understand it?
Kind of my opening diatribe tonight was the fact that, we've entrusted the future of our country, the future of our Constitution, the future of our Bill of Rights to a sack of people that are holding a 14% approval rating. John, there's nobody that I can think of that I would do business with that has a 14% approval rating. No one, unless I wanted to destroy myself. And That's the problem. I am all about gun safety. I'm all about education. I'm all about legal trading of weapons. I'm all about, I've subjected myself to background checks countless times. And I'm all about that. And I'm all about trying to keep weapons out of sick individuals' hands, out of criminals' hands. But you can't tell me that any of this legislation that these people are trying to pass briskly will prevent a criminal from obtaining a weapon or what may be termed an illegal size magazine or clip, or a sick individual from getting them. And sadly, the situation with gun restricted zones, I mean, I understand that there need to be areas where firearms are not necessarily in public view because it may freak out children, large masses, or where alcohol is being served where you can't necessarily control what's going on. But at the same time, I fear my government respectfully more than you do. I don't trust them as much as you do, and that's a basic fundamental difference between somebody that has a liberal or progressive view and somebody that has more of a conservative view. I don't trust either one of them on either side of the aisle. Lindsey Graham, to me, is laughable. John McCain is laughable. Johnny Isaacson is laughable. And I relished today when I heard where Johnny Isaacson was sitting on this filibuster, because not, 2 years ago, Donna, you were involved in a debate with him, and quite frankly, you smacked him all over West Georgia.
Well, actually, that was kind of interesting. But I did want to add, though, one more thing. John, that the lawmakers admit that what they're trying to push through would not have stopped the Sandy Hook massacre. So this is a knee-jerk reaction. It's just they got to be able to say we did something. And that's what annoys me so much. Why bother doing it if it stinks?
Well, it might not have stopped the Sandy Hook massacre, but, not every tragedy is the same. Not every disturbed individual is the same. So maybe some of the legislation they're proposing might stop, the next Sandy Hook. God forbid if that ever happens. Certainly none of us want that to happen. But you have to do something, and I think some of the things that are being proposed are common sense.
But why do you have to do something? There's laws on the books that are not enforced. Same with immigration. Why are we doing anything for immigration? They're not enforcing the laws that are already there. That's the whole problem. That's what's so, frustrating from my standpoint.
And you have to enforce the laws that are already there, and that's concerningly. But, for just an example, limiting the magazine size, I think one of the figures that I read that at Sandy Hook, he fired off 150 rounds with the 30-round magazines. He had to change clips 5 times. An estimate that I heard that it takes 2 seconds on average
if you're good
change
at it.
Each clip. If you're good at it. So
he systematically went through this almost like it was a video game, which to me is really the root of the problem. You've got an entire generation of over-medicated, under-medicated kids that are not being taken care of. It's more of a psychological issue. I think, instead of having
absolutely, I agree with you. That's part of it.
Yep. And we were going to take a little break, and I do want to talk about that when we come back. Okay, John?
Okay.
To me, this is just something that is not being touched on at all because it's uncomfortable. It makes everybody uncomfortable. Well, it's about time we got to wise up. John Bergquist from Newtown, Connecticut, will be our guest again for the next half hour. 646-929-0432 is the number. Lennon.
out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Adnormous Graphics has extensive experience in large format vinyl graphics production and installation. What the heck does that mean? Well, Adnormous Graphics specializes in vehicle graphics and other large-scale displays. If it's worth branding, Adnormous Graphics knows how to brand it. You need to turn heads to turn profits. Adnormous Graphics gets heads turning to your company. When other companies say no job is too big or too small, well, Adnormous Graphics actually means it. Let's take, for example, a map of the United States that shows all the red states and all the blue states. Adnormous Graphics can wrap that map life-size. That's right, and they can customize it. Tired of California being a blue state? No problem. Call Adnormous Graphics and ask them to wrap the entire state of California in red vinyl. Problem solved. No more blue states. Well, speaking of a map of the United States, Adnormous Graphics offers nationwide service and installation. Remember, you need to turn heads to turn profits. Adnormous Graphics gets heads turning to your company. Call them at 770-333-2790 for Adnormous Graphics. That's 770-333-2790. If you're ready for Adnormous results, call Adnormous Graphics at 770-333-2790.
Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. Government is the problem. Government is the problem. Government is the problem.
You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. I'm Donna Fiducia along with Don Neuen. And we do have a phone number for you to call in and be heard, 646-929-0432. And I'm very excited. For the last couple of weeks, we've been trying to get House Speaker John Boehner to join us. It's difficult. I mean, he's a busy guy. House Speaker kind of keeps you busy. And he's got the fiscal cliff going on, debt problems, sequestration, and just things dragging on and on and on that just never seem to get rectified at all in Congress or in Washington, D.C. in general, from the White House or the Senate for that matter. So as I say, we've been trying for quite some time to get Speaker Boehner to join us, and we are lucky enough to finally get him on the phone. House Speaker John Boehner, thank you so much for joining us here on Cowboy Logic Radio. Speaker Boehner, you know, you've been criticized quite a bit, especially from the Tea Partiers, for saying that President Obama is your friend, because it seems, according to the Tea Party and most on the right, if anything, Obama is anything but a friend to Republicans and to you and to Congress.
Speaker Boehner, I do appreciate you coming on the show with us and spending some time with us. I know that your personal time as well as your business time that you spend in Congress is completely irrelevant to any of us. And having said that, I appreciate you spending some time with us tonight. The first question that I would like to ask you, sir, is at what point in your political career and at what point in you holding the position of Speaker of the House will you, sir, grow a set of balls?
Mr. New Castrati Boehner, can you tell us why anybody would want to vote Republican, given the fact that you've taken Congress so far to the left, there's really no difference?
Speaker Boehner, what exactly is it that you do with all of your spare time when you're not crying? Speaker Boehner, again, thank you for coming on the show, talking with us, and entertaining our listening audience. I have another quick question for you, sir. My question is this. How do you consider the job that you are doing? How would you rank yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the absolute best Speaker of the House that's ever held the position, and 1 being very much like Nancy Pelosi? Where would you put yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, sir?
Speaker Boehner, given the fact that you have done nothing but give in to every little thing that the Obama administration pushes you toward, can you justify your existence as Speaker of the House?
You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Don't you just wish you could do that to the turds in Congress?
You know, do me a favor. Could you say senator instead of ma'am?
I love these members that get up and say, read the bill.
What difference at this point does it make?
The whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
We know that the free market is nonsense.
This liberal will be all about socializing, will be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
The time has come for unfiltered, politically incorrect common sense. Welcome to the wild world of Cowboy Logic.
And we're back. Before we do anything, I want to thank John for enduring about 8 minutes of conservative pain that was just inflicted on him. John, you are a trooper, man, and I appreciate you.
Thank you. It was quite trying.
Yeah, but see, 99% of the mainstream media is on your side, John. This is our little 2 cents that we get to put in here, you know?
John, we've got a caller that wants to come in and I believe ask you a few questions. Actually, they may want to flirt with Donna, but I'm not sure since I don't know who this is.
But I'm still
from area code 404. I want to bring in.
This is the problem because Don is actually engineering the show as well, so we don't know anybody's name ahead of time.
Well, and we just lost the caller, so.
Shoot.
At any rate, hey, so John, are you licking your wounds after the break monologue there?
No, I was fine. You know, I was strong through the whole thing. You know, maybe it's because I have a glass of wine here, and you know I can.
And after my own heart,
endure it. Yeah.
Have you tried Walmart Chardonnay? It's $2.97 a bottle. It's really good.
That sounds good. I don't think Walmart's here in Connecticut can sell booze, but you know.
Really? They sell guns down here.
Do they
well, they
sell
guns
ammo?
Here too, but
and ammo. Yeah.
Do they sell ammo?
I don't usually go in the gun section, and I'm sure it's more limited than it was the last time I was in there. But they must. I mean, they sell guns, so I would assume they sell ammo.
I
don't
know
that
their ammo is running low down here in Georgia. That's for sure. We're having a difficult time buying some of it. Hey, John, let me ask you a question. From moving away from Newtown. I got to tell you guys something, the listeners that are calling in, they're calling in on the Cowboy Logic Radio Skype number. If I answer your call, we go off the air. So I got to ask you to stop calling the Cowboy Logic Radio Skype number for me. And if you want to call into the show, call area code 646-929-0432. 646-929-0432. You want to call from your cell phone, that's cool. But if you keep calling me on the Cowboy Logic Skype number, I'm just going to keep punting you away, because if I answer you, then we say bye to John, and I don't want to do that.
We'll have to fix that for the next show.
Actually, you can't fix that for the next show. That's just a fact of life.
Oh, I thought you can call in on Skype.
Well, you can call in to the Blog Talk Radio. By the way, many of you may not have any idea what the heck we're doing around here. Quite frankly, it doesn't. Sometimes we wonder if we know what we're doing. But we have signed on with a company called Blog Talk Radio. And it's an internet-based radio station, or network, I should say, that is all Skype-based. And it's actually a pretty cool thing. The technology is amazing to me, even though I consider myself to be a guy that kind of lives in technology. But we've got a caller that has tried to call in on a landline, so let's see if we can get these folks in here, talk to John, and see if we can make this happen. I have no idea who you are. I can see your phone number, but tell us your first name.
Kathy.
Well, hi, Kathy. Say hello to John, and I got Donna sitting here with me as well.
Hey, Kathy. How are you?
Hi, John. Hi, Donna. How are you?
Hi, Kathy.
Kathy, John lives in Newtown, Connecticut, and I can't imagine what you've gone through, John, as Nancy Lanza was a friend of yours. Kathy, do you have something you'd like to ask John, or something to bring up as far as gun control, that kind of thing? Because this whole thing is being tied together. My personal opinion is that I feel that this is being exploited. And I just don't feel that it's going to do anything but just make lawmakers feel good, and people feel good. And unfortunately, what it does in the meantime is it takes away our rights. And, of course, John is on the opposite side, and that's why we're here.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more, Donna. But I guess the blanket question for me, I guess it sounds a little trite at this point, is what do we do as conservatives / libertarians at this point to protect our rights? So I understand with somebody that has been in the horrific situations that John has been through, but I don't want to lose my rights. I don't want to see the Constitution stomped on and thrown to the winds. How do we protect ourselves at this point?
Well,
do you want me to weigh in on this?
$60 million.
I would love it, Don. Go for it.
All right. I think at this point, we can sit around on Facebook and we can bash the government like I do on a nightly basis. But I think honestly, what we've got to do is get people to pick up the phone, and they've got to call their representatives and their senators. I mean, I plan on calling Johnny Isaacson tomorrow, his office, and I know I won't reach him. I may not even reach one of his little staff members, but I'm going to voice my opinion. And then the only other thing that we can do is hold politicians accountable. It's the only thing that we can do is hold them accountable. And quite frankly, the scary thing is that the majority of the population either doesn't have the time, because we all are terribly busy, that we don't have the time, or we're busy watching Entertainment Tonight when we ought to be reading things like the Drudge Report, and that which has been getting a bashing by the White House of late. But I think the main thing that we've got to do is be heard. We've got to engage in conversations. We've got to have liberals and conservatives like, and I'll use John and I as examples. We've got to be able to communicate and find common ground in order to protect this Constitution. I mean, the bottom line is educate yourselves. I mean, there's been conversation we've had with John this last week. John, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've opened your eyes to some things. We didn't make you a conservative, and we had no intention of doing that. But we did open your eyes to some things that you weren't aware of, and you're an extremely intelligent, articulate gentleman, But there was a lot you didn't know that we were sharing with you.
Oh, I'm in that situation. I'm in a company of affluent people that they are acting as ostriches at this point. Their heads are stuck in the dirt. When I tried to speak to them, they say, well, they can't affect change, so they'll just live with whatever comes their way.
See, elections have consequences. That really is the problem. And we're seeing this because you have a Mitt Romney who said, well, I'm going to fire Ben Bernanke. I'm going to stop printing money. And you have what's going on now with Obama getting a second term of printing $85 billion a month. And then we're worrying about a sequester that's, $40 billion is a drop in the bucket, considering what you would. But that's another story, too. Certainly for another time.
I want to add one footnote, and then I'd actually like to be quiet and let John try to answer your question as well, Kathy. But one thing that I think is imperative is that as conservatives or libertarians, you have to make a defining difference between the GOP and conservatives and libertarians.
Tea partiers.
And the GOP, the people that are running for the offices on the Republican ticket need to learn how to keep their mouths shut about their own personal social views. Live your life like you want. I live my life with very conservative social views, but I don't try to impose them on other people. And I think that's one reason, John, as a liberal, I would say that's one reason why you didn't even consider voting Republican. And now I'm going to be quiet, and I'm going to let you talk about that.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's both for me. On the economic side and the social side, I do lean towards the liberal side of things, but certainly, I mean, definitely social issues are big. I don't agree with the Republican Party on issues like gay marriage, women's rights, and those are big things. If people, if the Republican Party would just abandon some of these views and go after just the economic side, maybe they're not going to win me over, but they might win a lot of people over. I don't want to,
I want you to speak for everybody.
But I think that's what they should do.
Well, now I'll play devil's advocate again here, John. The women in poverty and below the poverty line has greatly increased under this administration. He's not doing anybody any favors by putting them on public assistance, by giving them a handout instead of giving them a job.
Well, John,
and that really is the bottom line.
Let me ask you this, John. When you were talking about women's rights, were you specifically referring to the choice, the right to choice?
Yeah, that was the primary thing that I had in my mind.
Because I don't know any other women's rights that a liberal could construe as being restricted by a conservative.
See, I don't. This administration has pushed Sharia law. This administration is pushing for allowing Muslims to have their own little enclaves up in Detroit in that area. This is being pushed by this administration, and women have no rights. Gays have no rights under Sharia law. And that is one thing that is not taught at all.
Cowboys don't have any rights under Sharia law, and I've researched that extensively. I do have a problem with it because the cowboy lifestyle,
trying to be serious here.
It's not about the hat. It's about the heart.
Well, that's, again, another topic for another show, is how we don't understand that because we grew up in the Judeo-Christian ethic here in this country for the most part. But as more and more people are seeing what's going on in the Middle East and what Sharia law is and how it's being pushed around the world, it's got to open people's eyes a little bit.
Kathy?
Yeah. Kathy's still there.
Hey,
I'm still here. I'm
got a question for you. Now that I so eloquently solved all your problems that you had regarding, what do we need to do, we got about 5.5 minutes left in the show, and I would really like to see if you wanted to create a dialogue with John about what happened. I mean, I'm assuming from your 678 area code that you live in the state of Georgia. You're 900 miles away from what took place that day, maybe a little further than that. You want to talk to John about a few things about the Sandy Hook problem?
I don't understand the situation. I've only heard what the mainstream media has told me, so I wouldn't begin to understand, like you were talking about earlier. Where were the guns? Donna said they were someplace. You said that you heard someplace else. I don't know. I wasn't there. I really, truly believe. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, if you have questions, I can tell you. I mean, he used the rifle inside the school.
See, I had always heard that was not the case, so I'm glad you clarified that.
Yeah, he brought 2 handguns with him. One was used to kill himself. He left a 12-gauge shotgun in the trunk of his car.
That's what I've heard as well.
That's what I heard. I heard there was a shotgun in the car. I didn't realize he had another one, though.
But there's never been any doubt in my mind that the AR was used in the school.
Beyond the laws that you have now, John, what would have changed that situation, though?
Well, and let me qualify this by saying, it might not have helped the Sandy Hook situation, but some of the laws that were enacted might help a future situation. But certainly the high-capacity magazines, where now we're limited to 10 rounds, if you had forced him to reload 15 times rather than 3 times, I think that would have given more of an opportunity for somebody to intervene while he was reloading his weapon.
We're talking about a potential 30 more seconds.
Yeah, but there was a shooting here.
I disagree, respectfully.
Let me tell John about this situation here. This was in Georgia probably about a month ago. A young mother and her 2 twin children were at home, and her husband had taught her how to use a gun and what to do in case somebody breaks into the house. He said, go into a closet, you take the gun, you take the kids, you hide. Well, lo and behold, sure enough, somebody breaks into the house. And this guy was taunting her. He knew she was home. He's going, I know you're here, I'm going to find you, and this kind of stuff. This is broad daylight, a robbery. Well, he opens the closet, and she's got this .38, and she's got her husband on the cell phone. And the .38, I believe, had, I don't know, I guess he had 6 rounds. She shoots him 5 times when he opens the door. She must be the worst shot on earth because the guy lived.
Well, she was also using a .38 when she should have been using a .38 special. Having said that, the
point is, I mean, then there, if you were limited, then you have the problem again as far as being able to protect yourself.
John Bergquist, I want to thank you. Kathy, I'm sorry, we're starting to run out of time here. John, you're a great friend. Thank you, sir. I've enjoyed having you on the show, and we have really enjoyed getting to know you and prepping for this show.
We're going to have John on as our liberal side of things.
That's
we are fair and balanced.
Hey, next week, I got to tell you about next week's show real quick while we got very little time left. We've got a friend, and she is our Israeli correspondent, that's going to be doing about an hour-and-a-half long interview that was pre-recorded, and then we'll finish out the rest of the night live. But you don't want to miss this. She's a 28-year-old, brilliant, stunningly beautiful young lady, and she is going to shed a little insight on what's going on in Israel.
And while we were talking to her, bombs were flying over her home. And no one's talking about that either.
We can't relate to it.
Totally silent.
Hey, if you've been listening, I want to thank you. I'll see you on Facebook. And John, thanks for entering that wild world of Cowboy Logic. Kathy, thank you for calling in. We appreciate you.
Gaynor from 12 Stones, the band 12 Stones, and we want to thank him. Check him out on the web with his great music. And Stan Levy, Black Man Thinkin', THICKIN.com. His radio blog, his blog there where he discusses everything pertaining to his side of things, and it's a great perspective from everybody's angle. We do want to thank everybody for joining us today here on Cowboy Logic Radio. Have a good week. We'll see you next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Be there or be square. Cowboy Logic Radio. Unfiltered, politically incorrect, common sense. You've been listening to Cowboy Logic Radio, a division of Donna Fiducia Productions.